in Fearless. Eris, of course, gonna stay in. You got to think he's gonna stay in the entirety of the rest of the match.
Yeah.
Especially because he has played a lot more variety of champions, so more options here for them.
Speaking of options, though, the early options here in the bans, exact same as the previous game for the exact same sides. G2, even though they're back on blue, they're still banning Rumble, Gwen, and Nocturne. Oh, not the exact same, actually. The TF was the first side when Gwen again in the second half.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, over on the other side, Azir, Maokai, Draven, still all banned by GAM.
Globals have been very powerful. We've had battles over side lanes, battles and battles, but they go for the carry jungle here for Skuma and then Nefiri. Definitely a confident one for him.
Very powerful.
In response to Nefiri. I mean, there's so many options up and available here for GAM, for Kiaya. Is this going to be one of the games where they have to throw him on the Scion up to the top side of the map?
Looks like they think so.
So they are going to blind really early on. Then you probably want a nice carry jungle here for Levi. Let's see what else is still up.
Ooh,
taken down.
This is very interesting if they go for double solo lanes right at the very start.
That's a carry jungle that everybody's been practicing.
Nope, I'm not going to get baited. I'm not going to get baited until they lock.
He did have one game on it this split.
I'm not going to get baited until they lock. Lilia instead for GAM. So you've got a big tanky meatball there for the front line. You've got some powerful AP threat coming out in the jungle for GAM.
And Eris has played Corki and Tristana in mid, but both of those have already been used.
Yeah.
Because the Corki was used in bottom lane. They obviously already had the Caps mid lane Tristana. So some of those AD options get really thin for mid lane once you do get kind of deep into Fearless. The Jace was also picked in top lane. A lot of those things that do kind of cross over, so...
And a lot of the tanky engaged supports, right? Rel, Nautilus, Alistar, already removed by Fearless. Now the Leona locked in by G2 to pick up one of the ones that remains.
Yeah, and they don't even have the option of having like Braum or anything sort of counter engage afterwards either. So they are going to go for the dive. A Nefiri dive and a Kaisa dive here. Ooh. They're going to go right past the Scion.
It's a full Sind comp for G2 here in the first 3 picks. What can GAM use to deal with it? Normally, into a comp like this, you would love to have something like Xayah to survive the dive. Unfortunately, Xayah was played in the last game, not available.
Just continue to build front to back here. Okay, so trying to get some pushing bottom lane. Caitlyn does have a decent amount of pairings still up because, as you said, most of the supports were melee engaged supports that were used. So you're thinking the Caitlyn Karma's got to get banned by G2.
Mm-hmm.
Caitlyn Lux, Renata's available, lots of range champions, poke champions to go with that Caitlyn, try and punish that Kaisa early on.
I always do love Renata into hard dive, hard engage. The hostile takeover just feels ideal for those situations. GAM going to ban out the Aatrox, targeting Broken Blade a little bit up here in that top side as we are Game 4 and Game 5. That's when Fearless really feels like it really starts to matter and you can start hitting those pools pretty hard. Yone banned
that's
out
one
by
of the other
G2.
AD champs still up for mid. Good snipe there. We mentioned a lot of the other ones that have been taken out.
And you got to be so sharp when you're getting into these later games in Fearless, making sure you're thinking of every single option. Because if you remember 9 out of 10 of them and one still gets through, one is all they need. So removing the Yone, I like it a lot. The Orianna also going to be banned out here by GAM.
Smolder is another AD mid option that is up. They have Red 5, though, for themselves. They have Red 5, full counter pick for Eris. So as soon as we see the poke, I was assuming a Karma was going to get banned just because the Caitlyn Karma poke is so annoying. That lane is brutal. Expecting the support pick to come in here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. You would have to think it's support here, right? Since you've already seen both picks for the enemy bot lane.
Are they going to go for it? So many options still available.
A little bit of time left to think.
Oh, they're not going to reveal it just quite yet.
Wow.
Could technically be a Galio for support too, so flex here, flex Galio on 4.
Of course, support Galio does lose some of the efficacy with the ult since you're positioned on one far end of the map early on. Harder to affect skirmishes, fights in the top side early on with the ultis.
I like this, though. Does make Caps think. So
Okay.
Slam here.
Meatball
Cho'Gath
versus
tank answer
Meatball.
on the top side. Okay, oh, the Twisted Fate finally does come through. Left open so much at the beginning. It finally does come through. So they're putting the faith into Hansama and Skumon to carry this one. Nefiri and Kaisa, very big champs for them for the carry. Very comfortable. And the Silas does come in. Answer here for Eris. This is good into the Twisted Fate. You know, you can steal the ultimate, try and answer that global presence in these constant fights that have been over the side lanes. Is such a big tool to have.
Silas really good for following those plays. I personally always love to see him picked into this Twisted Fate just for that reason. TF's whole thing is, yeah, the kit by itself is pretty simplistic. Isn't going to have any wow factor outside the ulti because so much of the power budget is in those big ult plays. And then Silas just yoinks it.
Yeah, and they have the advantage here too with Galio ultimate, with Scion ultimate, really long range. Even though it's not a global, you can make a lot of quicker rotations than the Cho'Gath can.
And even though when you look at GAM's comp, they don't have like a snap big engage button, right? Like Scion is very telegraphed. Galio needs somebody else in there first. Silas can steal away the Leona ulti as well. Just use it as an orbital laser with that AP ratio and start fights off like that. So let's go back to my tried and true question. How are we feeling about the drafts?
I mean, I do feel pretty good about the G2 side, but GAM are hyped up after that win. You can see the smiles on their faces, rejuvenated after taking that win in the previous game. And they do have a lot of map mobility available to them here to answer. Kia definitely good on the Scion.
Okay, let's see what we got. Both supports running the Aftershock this time around. Summoner Spellbook for Caps in the mid lane on the Twisted Fate. Both top laners, of course, going for the grass stacks. This is a meatball battle. They're both just going to be clearing the waves, hitting each other whenever they get the opportunity. Jungle Nefiri versus Lilia. Both of these junglers having a lot of damage to bring to the table, particularly if they get ahead. It can be such a problem for the other.
Definitely can. Nefiri looking here towards Raptors. Lilia the Raptor Annihilator, but Nefiri pretty good for invades as well. Oh, and they find one.
Not a good start here for Eris. Has to try to get away from this, flashing out before there's the opportunity for cooldowns to maybe come back for G2 and take him out. Caps will see the recall there. Not going to step up and try to interrupt it. Eris goes all the way back to base. He is going to be a little bit late to mid lane.
Man, that mid lane is so gankable. Silas already has to trade health a lot for early waves. No flash available for the Silas. Caps here, full priority, and the minion dies out of experience range for Eris.
All right, so a little bit behind on that one. So G2 is going to get some value there. The early games so far for GAM, you can see kill death at 14, 1.38 gold difference. They have been up and slightly ahead in terms of Drake. So the earlies have been all right, but I think that's pretty accurate compared to what we've seen because GAM have been competitive in the early stages of the games. It's just been in those first two. It's the later stages. It's the macro movements where G2 was ahead. Now Hansama having a flash over the wall. Nice moves there from Elio, using the taunt to force the early summoner out of Hans.
Yeah, and using the extra move speed here, proccing his heel to push him up against the wall, get that flash down really early on.
Now they'll crash the wave into the turret. As we can see, both junglers moving towards this bottom side of the map. This could turn pretty volatile pretty fast. We've seen both of these bottom lanes willing to try to make those level 3 dives throughout the series so far. Artemis and Elio just continuing to put the pain on Lebrov and Hansama. This is why you draft the Caitlyn. You need lane dominance.
Look at this, though. Skipping some camps to go for a gank. Skumon down there on Nefiri, getting into the action early.
Skumon's going to make his way down here, but Lebrov is eating a ton of damage first. It's first blood over to Artemis. GAM outplay in the 2v3.
Yeah, they just lock up Lebrov there. They get the taunt. They get the trap chain right there. Artemis locks him up.
Beautiful from GAM. They don't panic. They remain calm. They know they can burst down the Leona, even though he is pretty tanky, and they walk away with the extra money for it. Nicely done from the GAM duo.
Just fight your way out. Oh, the pressure. This is so good for the comp too. This Caitlyn gonna be pressuring and pushing so much early on. Look at that, full combo, got the E. Actually, he didn't even have to do the trap. It was just the E plus the headshot.
I love the guy in front. That is a real life, not like this. Now Eris has Elio and Levi right behind him here as he's looking to get this wave shoved up. A little bit of a bowling ball there from Levi, but Caps still not feeling enough pressure to break the freeze that he has here on the wave. He'll allow this one to stack up, try to keep this in a good position, exactly for what you were talking about earlier. You want to make this scary for Eris. He doesn't have a flash. Make him afraid to be in the lane as Elio now getting jumped on. Lebrav and Skumon trying to make something happen. Skumon is investing a lot of time into trying to influence this bottom lane, but Kobe, it's just not working.
Yeah, and there he gets a value trap. Taunt pulling him right onto it. He ganks again. Not only does he get pushed off, gets chunked, and it buys time for your jungler. When you're showing so much on the other side of the map, and GAM's bottom lane is dealing with it, 2v3, and coming out with advantage, Levi just gets to eat up really good here.
And there we go. Once again, Lebrav is going to be your target with a taunt from Elio, pulling him back in. Traps will not lock the Leona down for an additional amount of time. Hans not dealing as much damage in these scraps as he would like to, but he is maintaining farm despite the fact that they fell behind early off of the Skumon gank that got turned around. Checking back up into the top side here, also even farm between these two. Broken Blade again having his biggest troubles last game so far in the series. Levi, though, in some danger now. Skumon going for the invade here, finding both Dark and Daggers onto the Lilia. Levi forced all the way out. Kiaya versus Broken Blade. Kiaya's only level 5, Broken Blade level 6. Wanted to see if he could get the feast before the Scion hit the ulti, but he does not want to overforce that because if Kiaya hits level 6 underneath the turret, you go for the point-blank ulti, you stun the Cho'Gath, you turn it around and get the kill instead yourself.
Yeah, and so necessary there for Skumon. He wants to use his purchase advantage, even though Levi was able to use that time that he was showing bottom to go counter jungle and increase his camp clear. Skumon, having the purchase, goes for the chase. Chases Levi down to push him off so that he can't just easily go into the Krugs, so he doesn't fall super duper far behind. And he's able to steal away those Krugs and return to his side.
And one thing I want to point out, what we've seen so many times so far throughout this series, early advantage for Caps in terms of his presence in the lane, his ability to farm. He's up 2 waves. Kiaya going in after Broken Blade. Needs a little bit more damage. Finds a grass proc. Broken Blade goes for the rupture. Kiaya's got the sidestep. He hits him with a little bit more damage, but a nice silence to interrupt the decimate. Broken Blade's going to eat the apples. It heals him up enough. Now Lebrav with rotation over. Kiaya cannot get the kill. And G2 even up the kill score, but a TP is coming in. What is GAM planning to do? That wasn't a TP, that was a Lilia Swirl Seed. They look the same with that skin.
Yep, right up the river. That was the Constellation Swirl Seed, high from the team.
They look the same, I swear.
And, yeah, for sure. And Broken Blade, even though he got so low, goes down, finds the Honey Fruit, buys enough time. The Twisted Fate ultimate is there to save him. The team is there to save him from Kiaya, who had also run out of mana. Kiaya really focused, tunnel visioned on getting his kill on Broken Blade, but it turns around and goes back to favor of G2. Of course, they are able to get their consolation prize. They get their dragon on the other side of the map, but G2 just going to be happy to play up on top side. You know, top quadrant is available for them. Skumon, take away that red buff. Lebrav, rotate on over.
Yeah, they're getting Lebrav and Hans out of that abusive Caitlyn duo matchup down there in the bottom lane. Now it's up to Broken Blade to try to deal with that. Rupture, though, is not going to connect onto Artemis. More traps being placed down. Not quite enough damage to kill off the Cho'Gath, but Broken Blade is down to 400 HP, and now he's got to go all the way back home. The Cho'Gath not having a fun time dealing with these two either. This is the power of the Caitlyn Galio. It makes your opponents have to adapt and adjust to deal with the fact that there's so much pressure in this bottom lane. Now all these minions getting eaten by the turret, all of this extra money going over in terms of plate value to Artemis feels good for GAM to make up some of that gold difference that I was already talking about back in mid. Caps is naturally building for himself. He's farming better than Eris. He's also got the passive TF gold generation. He's going to be accelerated this game, but Artemis is even more so.
You can say that again.
Artemis is even more so.
Meanwhile, it is going to be the rotation up to those grubs. They do get them with their swap. Artemis here. Can he do it on the Caitlyn? Of course, so good at keeping up the pressure. Has the BF sword now, working towards that Yuntal. The Twisted Fate, though, very, very painful to deal with. That's why Artemis has the cleanse, has had both summoners available to him. They have dealt with the pressure that has come their way from jungle.
Ooh, Caps gonna find himself in a compromised position here. There's your lilting lullaby. Caps is put to sleep. Eris jumps in to join the fight. Ace in the hole to guarantee it, and Artemis gets a paycheck. GAM find the enemy mid laner at precisely the right time.
You said it last game, Flowers. Go to the source of the global. They attack the Twisted Fate. They get the kill, and they hand it over to Artemis. Meanwhile, it's just going to stop at those Raptors, but they take away the Raptors, and they can get the free push on mid.
Nicely done there from GAM, guaranteeing that they can attack that TF before he can attack somewhere else. Gonna slow Caps down a little bit. Artemis now up to an individual gold lead of over 1,000. He's going to be so far accelerated. And like you already mentioned, the first item is Yuntal Wild Arrows. This is a stacking item. The faster you get it, the faster you stack it, the more powerful you are more quickly. And when you're this far ahead, congratulations, sir. You're now the win condition. We need you as far ahead as possible.
And now, since Kiaya was already pushing in on the top side, they go for the early recalls here. Switching it up. Swap the Caitlyn on over to the top side. Kiaya's going to stick around. Whenever you have the sign with the ultimate, have the options for the extra play. The swap answer is going to come in as Broken Blade walks back up there. And they've got the Galio rotating too.
All right, Elio's ready. Broken Blade is pretty tanky here on the Cho'Gath, though, at least in terms of health. Resistances might not look that impressive. Now gonna get taunted up. They wanted to see if that taunt might have been able to bring him closer to the trap. A little bit more damage will get it done. Ace in the hole, that's the goal. As there's Broken Blade, though, getting the kill back on Kiaya to make it a 1-for-1 when the dust finally settles. GAM, they force the kill onto the tanky Cho'Gath. They get the ult out of the Twisted Fate at the same time. Kiaya was already dead by the time Cats got there, so the Twisted Fate ult ultimately just ends up being a waste.
Yeah, he does clean up with the minion waves up here, and he is going to go for the stop.
Oh, that's a huge taunt from Elio. If they can get a little bit more, the winds of war are blowing, and Caps is blown away. GAM picking up another one as the Swirl Seed flies in, but it won't find the mark on Lebrov. Levi has made his way up, and they're going to continue forcing this further forward. GAM is playing around Artemis just beautifully.
Yeah, Caps thought Artemis was gone. He thought that Caitlyn was out of there, but in the brush, they spring the trap, they get the kill. Plus, on the bottom side of the map, they're still able to rotate over to deal with the wave that Hansama had pushed up. Once again, it was GAM that were getting the early shove on these side turrets. GAM here being the one setting the pace.
Really, really impressive stuff from GAM here early. I am loving Elio's play on this Galio as well. So many good taunts, so many good justice punches. Kiaya versus Broken Blade. The meatball war once again raging as they both try to stack as many grasp procs as humanly possible. Broken Blade winning out in the trade for now. Kiaya, the problem with using these decimates against Cho'Gath, two of the Cho'Gath abilities interrupt the channel, so you've got to be ready to spring it early if the Rupture's about to hit you, or if you think he's about to get the cooldown off on the Scream. Flash for the eat! Broken Blade gets the solo kill. Kiaya cannot be disrespecting him like that.
Yeah, bottom side tower, though, in the meantime, taking a beating, and Levi comes over just to make sure that they can push this one down. Make sure, even if Skumon goes for the gank, that they will have the numbers to answer. Next wave is coming, but already rotate over towards the Dragon. Broken Blade, though, jeez. That Cho'Gath is hulking out this game, getting another kill onto Kiaya, being able to push the wave in. He forces the teleport out from Kiaya too, so now teleport advantage from G2.
Look at the damage Artemis puts out. Hans Sama already down to half HP after Artemis tags him here with a headshot. Stolen Twisted Fate ulti coming in. Here's Eris. There goes LeBron. There goes Hans. There goes the turret. But here comes Broken Blade. He's in the middle of 4. Cho'Gath, he might be hungry, but he ain't eating today. GAM, just slam him.
That teleport advantage turned into another delivery. Flowers. The gameplay was too quick. The gameplay was too quick. And it is all thanks to Eris. He steals the Twisted Fate ult. He rotates down. They push on. They get the kill. They get the tower. They get the dragon.
And now Elio and Eris, they're looking at caps. Yes, there's the gold card onto Elio, but it doesn't matter. Elio will just buffer through it there with a Justice Punch. Let's take another look at how this happened bottom.
Yeah, the siege pressure just really finding it, and Levi is able to tag them, gets the double sleep. You see on the minimap the rotation down from Silas. Eris steals the ulti, is able to get the extra kills, plus they finish off the tower. By the time this teleport completes, it's just Cho'Gath food.
Broken Blade's maybe thinking he can get in there. Maybe you get a feast burst kill on the Artemis. It looked like, according to the UI, there wasn't even a cooldown for it, though. He just gets chain CC'd, beat down, and you could hear the excitement in the GAM squad as they find that pop-off. They're now up 2 Drakes, 3,000 gold, 4 kills. This is an amazing start for GAM. 14 minutes in as turret plates have just fallen.
When the pressure got on in GAM in the last game, in the elimination game, something really switched. They're the ones now pushing the tempo, pushing the plays, forcing G2 to react to them. And the slow reaction just turned into extra lead for GAM. It also resulted in, of course, Kiai, after he got solo killed, he was back out on the top side. He did a lot of extra damage to that top side turret. That thing has been softened up. So not only did they get the bottom side one, but the top side one barely standing there, and Kiai stacking up, still has a CS lead.
So I will say, for G2, yes, it's good to shut down Kiai to prevent him from becoming a monster. It's not good when the only kills you have this game are on that Scion. No one else on GAM has fallen yet.
Yeah, and this game for GAM is going so well. The bottom lane, really, really big stars. With how they were able to deal with the 2v3, coming out with advantages multiple times.
Once again, I feel like every time we see Hans on the same screen as Artemis, Hans has no more than half a health bar for any amount of time. The range on the Caitlyn's so oppressive, and he's approaching that second item power spike as well as the Rift Herald is spawned.
And Artemis was one of the 2 big stars that they wanted to pick up and add to this GAM team with this year. Okay.
Let's see how it works here.
Off here is pretty close.
Neither one of the top laners has a teleport to join this fight. GAM with total control over the top side river. GAM with a 3,000 gold lead as a team, about 2,500 of that on Artemis specifically. And if the Caitlyn's there, G2 shouldn't care. Just walk away, let him have it. Sorry for getting in your way, my bad. And you just let it go. Now GAM have yet another resource to use to build this gold lead, and they will use that resource immediately. Dark Dagger hits Artemis, but just one dagger isn't going to be a massive threat. Herald's about to charge, and there we go. Tier 1 turret down in the mid lane. That's 2 turrets for GAM now.
Priority continues for them. Broken Blade actually walking up the river. What is the play from G2 right now? Actually, it's already called out though. You see those back pings?
Yeah.
Kiai pinging. Broken Blade can roam right now. Careful, Artemis. Don't step up. Don't put that gold bounty on your head at risk.
Yeah, that's a massive bounty, almost 600, and we're only 16 minutes into the game. Infinity Edge just purchased for Artemis, but just as important, Kobe, Mikhail's Crucible, first item here for Elio. Azael talks about this item a lot. I completely agree with him. I think it's one of the best items you can purchase on support, especially when you have one person on the team who's so fed.
Especially when you're playing against Twisted Fate, buddy.
Yeah!
you better be getting me a Mikhail's. Mikhail's
and
plus
Leona.
Yeah, Mikhail's plus the cleanse, so you can deal with Twisted Fate, deal with the Leona. Getting more and more answers here, but the dive.
Okay, Eris getting dove, tries to use the ulti to defend himself. Immediately, Elio comes crashing in. He wants to find a taunt, but he doesn't find anybody. Now Kiai has shown up. G2, they still got a 5v2. The turret is about to fall. Kiai in danger as Elio tries to get away. Kiai is fully running. GAM caught off guard. They'll lose 2 plus a turret, and G2 aren't done yet. Kiai trying to stop the back on caps. This is a big punch back coming out of G2. Now GAM are going to at least get the tier 2 in the mid lane as a trade, but the problem is Broken Blade's taking the same thing up there in top. This was a massive play for G2. That tier 2 turret still standing. They're not going to be able to force that down just yet on the G2 side.
Yeah, classic G2 play, overloading the side outer turret. Caps on down here, does see that Bambi has taken the Krugs already and has left the area.
Yep.
Dragon spawning fairly soon here, but that was a nice bit of gold here back for G2 before the Dragon. They go and they spend that gold after their kills, after their tower that they've gotten. GAM spent some resources in kind of half-heartedly defending that.
Yeah.
They used the Galio ult as well as the teleport from Kiaya, while not committing Artemis himself, of course, and Artemis pushed down mid lane.
And the Mikhail's Crucible was also used by Elio. That cooldown still has about half remaining on it. GAM going after their third Drake of the game. This would bring them to Soul Point. They lost about 1,000 of their 3,000 gold lead, but look at the Caitlyn traps beautifully placed on the ramp. If Skumon wants to go in to try to contest this, it is a one-way trip there for the dog. He decides discretion is the better part of Valor today. That is 3 Drakes for GAM.
They're going for the Silas right now. Artemis, Eris, Wise teleport out.
Yeah.
They were going for a little trap play on the split pusher. Good teleport there from Eris to escape the rotation.
All right, so let's check in. Where are the gold leads then for each team? We know it's all Artemis on the side of GAM. Also, solid leads for Levi and Elio both. But over on the other side, Broken Blade still has a modest lead over Kiaya in the meatball battle. And mid lane, Caps, as we expected, he has higher farm. He has the natural gold generation of the Twisted Fate passive, so he's pretty strong now as well. His Rod of Ages is 2 stacks away from being completed for the extra level that's going to earn him. He also has the Lich Bane already done. If you're G2, you're looking for Caps to find a play to facilitate coming back into this game.
Yeah, and G2 also, they're really looking for Han Sama to get any sort of money they can on him. Because the Kai'Sa was put behind in this game, really trying to, they need some more money on that Kai'Sa to actually have the threat to go into the back line.
I like watching people play around these silly Otacon walls. Kiaya gets 1 knock up there with a Decimate. Broken Blade trades back with a knock up of his own. Elio's going to make his way up here. It might be big battle time here around the Otacon pit. Caps has his ulti ready to join if he needs to. His Summoner Spellbook has switched over to Exhaust on the Twisted Fate. Eris does not have his own teleport ready, but you will see him likely try to steal Caps's if he sees that Twisted Fate on the screen. Broken Blade going to continue to maintain priority here in these side lanes with his lead on this Cho'Gath. Kiaya will be able to immediately respond, but it does mean that Broken Blade always has first move for joining any of these other fights. Or just stopping Kiaya from backing. Yeah.
Hello. Beefcake versus Beefcake up here. Again, sometimes though, the early move that you're talking about here, Sion with the ultimate Kiaya here can look for a lot of these angles to try and punish a pushing Kai'Sa. Like anytime kind of like this, if they have people in position, trying to punish that Kai'Sa, if you are extended in mid lane, knowing that they don't have their outer tower for defense, that's where GAM can try and utilize their Sion ultimate, their Galio ultimate here, to really open up space for the Lilia follow-up.
Honestly, this past sequence, not too bad for G2. What was once a 3,000 gold lead and change is now just about 1,500, so it's been cut down by half. Nicely done from them, not allowing GAM to build their own lead up even further. GAM with control over the Otacon pit, though, as G2 make their approach. Broken Blade and Lebrov going to lead the charge on this one as Kiaya goes back to base.
Look at there's deep teleport wards here for him as well. Lots of deep wards for GAM, littering the area that leads up to Otacon.
Okay, taunt channeled from Elio. Not going to find anything with that one. Also important to note that Kiaya did just go back to purchase the Unending Despair. Second item fully completed now on the Scion. In these extended fights, can get a ton of value out of the healing on that one. Elio stepping forward, threatening a taunt, but he gets stunned up. Followed up by the Leona ulti, but where's the rest of it? Eris stealing the Leona ulti now as Lebrov is down to half HP. Broken Blade taking a lot of damage from Artemis back over the wall. The Silas Leona ult doesn't hit any targets. They force the flashback out of Hans. GAM have control over the river, but Elio has to Mikhail's himself to get away. Otherwise, he's vulnerable to the feast of Broken Blade. Damaged health bars on Elio and Levi, but also on Broken Blade and the bottom lane of G2. However, that means GAM GAM is forced out of the topside river. G2 is going to move back up there, clear out some of the vision, and look to control Otacon.
Yeah, Levi went for the flash play, and they got everything out of Hansama. The cleanse down, the flash down for the Kaisa. One of the big carries there for the G2 lineup that GAM want to target. This Soul, though, Flowers, the Soul is only 50 seconds away, so these flashes that are blown already will not be available if they want to rotate down to the Soul fight. And you do want to get there pretty early so you can set up your Caitlyn traps. There are pretty big advantages to arriving very early to this objective. Looks like G2, though, they've already got Lebrov heading over to set up their vision. Trying to deal with that mid wave. You have to be so careful, though. All these AD carries on mid waves, it's usually the death trap for them, where they do get caught sometimes when they don't have summoner spells. But Hans does back off. He does pay respect.
Eris stealing away the Cho'Gath feast for big burst potential here on the Sylas. Now, let's see how this fight shakes out with all the resources that are now back up after the last scrap. You can see Levi has 5 seconds left on the Lilting Lullaby. GAM do not want to fight without the Lilia ulti. It's a massive tool to not have available. Caps with a little bit of poke there onto Eris, but Artemis responding with some of his own there through Ace in the Hull. Levi starting up the Drake. Kiaya here on the front line. Traps being placed down at the entryway to the Dragon Pit itself. Artemis needs to be so mindful of his positioning. He is the key for both teams in this. If G2 can pick off the Caitlyn, that's their green light. If GAM can protect him, they can steamroll a fight. The Crab is going to be the first part of the fight. Eris moves in, scaring G2 back. Crab going to be claimed by G2, but now the fight starts off. A lot of damage on Lebrov as he tries to flash away, but a big multi-man sleep coming up from Levi. Kiai is in a little bit of danger, but G2 are already losing multiple members. Broken Blade tries to get away. The Swirl Seed tags him, but it doesn't matter. The Mountain Drake, the Mountain Soul, Broken Blade, all claimed by GAM.
And everything is still up on the map. You can get Baron, you can get Otacon Flowers, everything for GAM. They are going to reap the rewards of that team fight. That is huge. GAM pushing us towards a reverse sweep, Flowers, when all of Vietnam is watching GAM stand tall.
The MasterCard priceless moment here as the Soul is claimed by GAM. Let's see it again.
So the Swirl Sweep, it hits Lebrov and Skumon, and they put him to sleep. Skumon going to sleep while Kiaya tries to play on the front line, pops up Broken Blade. They just burst down Lebrov while the rest of G2 were forced up on the opposite side. Really good focus there from GAM, taking down that front line, and from there, there's no escape. Broken Blade also going to fall. Front line destroyed. GAM get their soul, and what did they get in the aftermath? So much was left up on that map.
Well,
there you go, Otacon first.
Yeah, the Baron is still alive. Otacon is the easier objective to take, but remember, this thing can still shred your resistances if you're not paying proper respect to the enemy team showing up. GAM still putting the DPS into it. Broken Blade over the wall. Doesn't look like he's going to go for any kind of a steal. Kiaya and Eris both backing away now. Dragon Soul, Mountain style, plus Otacon over to GAM. Baron still alive on the map, still a 3,500 gold lead for GAM. Broken Blade knock up on Kiaya, but that's not worth a whole lot. Mid lane tier 1, G2 gonna force that one down. Caps providing the damage. Kiaya goes in for the initiation, doesn't find what he's looking for, but he does zone Caps away. Hansama looking for Artemis, who flashes back to try to get to safety. Artemis still bleeding to the Darkened Daggers. G2 wanted to make something happen there, but they don't quite find it. Now Lebrov and Skumon taking a ton of damage as Kiaya continues chasing after Broken Blade. Eris zoning Caps out of the fight, so TF cannot join. Broken Blade's knocked up into the air, and Artemis is locked and loaded. GAM find another one with the front line of G2 hurting now. Broken Blade down, Lebrov critically injured. GAM once again have control.
Yeah, they chased them off. Neither of the carries there could do any damage. The Kaisa was out on the outside too. They're gonna chase him down. Twisted Fate ulti stolen.
Okay, Eris jumps in, but he had already used Abscond Abduct right before using the ulti, so he didn't have any CC immediately available. Doesn't get a lot of value out of that stolen ulti, but GAM will at least steal away the red buff, the team-wide red buff from their opponents, and now they'll head on back.
GAM front to back is just too strong. Artemis is just too far ahead. This Caitlyn so powerful with the 3-item power spike. The Lord Doms really meaning they can just destroy your front line and walk forward towards you. Kai'Sa can't really get angles in there, show short range. No real opportunities there, too far behind. This game has been so much about that bottom lane, and he has yet to die. Artemis really showing up for GAM.
100% kill participation on the Caitlyn, 90% kill participation on the support Galio from Elio as well. Both of these two having a phenomenal game so far, but a good game isn't a complete game. GAM still has to keep playing this clean. That gold lead hasn't really ever gone past this point very much. G2 have managed to keep the game close, so we're still looking for that moment from GAM that really breaks things open. The Elder is spawning in 2.5 minutes. Baron is still alive on the map, and the important thing to also note is those little golden barriers alongside the edge of all the objectives. If G2 does win a fight, if they find Artemis that one time, one play can flip the game on its head.
Take some gold back, try and make use of the bounty system. Is there hope? For sure. But the power of this Mountain Soul as well, just, yeah, man, it is insane for the front line here. Double Mountain Dragons as well as the Soul on top, plus the advantage of having the super long range Caitlyn here, being so far ahead, is just a recipe here for GAM. Setting up standard objective, go front to back. Wait a second, they're actually looking at the mid lane here. Cho'Gath is in the brush on the side there.
Oh, Skumon steps up straight into a taunt! Elio, the Galio, absolutely on point all game long. That dog just got old Yellard, and it's time for GAM to head to the Baron.
The vision control here for GAM does force the check from G2, and you're thinking, oh, he's gonna be able to press W, go untargetable. But Elio doesn't even let him. Springs the trap so quickly. They get Skumon, they get the Baron. Caps trying to split push back there.
Yeah, you're going to see Broken Blade and Caps. They use the Twisted Fate ulti to join up with Broken Blade, who already had the wave of the tier 2. So G2 is going to get that objective bounty down there in the bottom lane to at least get some kind of a consolation prize. But the Baron now on the side of GAM with 45 seconds until the Elder spawns.
I want to see the vision of that replay. Elio doing a good job up on the corner there of the wall to see what it looked like for G2's perspective, because now GAM, with the Baron, with the Mountain Soul, with the Otacon already taken, everything in their arsenal poised to push us to Silver Scrapes, push us to a Game 5 in our last series of play-ins.
Oh, Hansama with the flash away. If he didn't hit that, he was immediately dead to the follow-up taunt from Elio. And now everybody from G2 trying to flash out and stay alive. But the timer, Kobe, it couldn't be worse for G2. The Elder is spawning. Both of their carries just spent their flashes. The health bars are injured. And GAM has total control over the Drake Pit with Labrov running towards the enemy base. Kiaya will hunt him down as GAM already starts up the Elder. Keep your eyes on Skumon. A full send Elder Steal could be the only chance G2 really has here. They're going to place the ward over the wall, but it's blocked by the control ward. Now GAM, they're going to pull off. They'll go after Lavrov instead. They know if they kill him off and they have a 5v4, it'll be so much easier to take the Elder fight guaranteed. Decimate with the stun. Justice Punch gets it done. Artemis goes godlike, and GAM now have their man advantage for the next 30 seconds. G2 still scrambling to get into a position here, but there's still no flashes on Hans and Caps. They've managed to heal up, but that's not enough. Broken Blade with a rupture over the wall, just trying to look around, see what's happening. Eris and Kiaya approaching from the side. Kiaya's got so much of a shield, nobody can even break it. Eris stealing away the killer instinct. Now it's 2 dead on G2. The Elder down to 30% HP, and GAM should be able to secure this here. Caps going in for the hero moment, but it ain't gonna happen. Instead, he just teleports to the other side of the rift. GAM with a 6,000 gold lead, with a Mountain Soul, with Otacon, with the Elder, with a man advantage for 25 seconds, marching towards the G2 base.
They're coming for that base. They're going to destroy this tower ever so quickly. G2 have to pray right now with the Elder Dragon and everything at their backs. GAM are going for it.
There's still 10 seconds on Broken Blade as GAM goes straight in. Hansama's already going to be under pressure. Eris continues the dive. G2 continue to retreat. They can pray if they want, but God's not listening. GAM force down the Nexus turrets. They make their way to the Nexus, and after starting at a 0-2 deficit, GAM will take us to Game 5, and Silver scrapes.
Look at those smiles on the GAM players. This team, they really are like a family. They are so close.